Now I've been speaking of the chair as IPS, and if you would let me take my hat off now and speak as chair of ICC for just a moment. While the Language Symposium was a great success, there are a number of other examples, both within and outside the Arctic Council, where Indigenous peoples take the lead and do very well. For example, I have the privilege of chairing the steering committee that is planning the Indigenous Peoples Global Summit on climate change. While this is not precisely an Arctic Council project, the summit outcomes will greatly contribute to the work of the Council. More than 300 Indigenous peoples from around the world will come together in Anchorage, Alaska in April 2009 to share experiences regarding climate change and adaptation. Most importantly, we will discuss how strategies or solutions can be formulated that respond to the terrible impact that climate change is having on already marginalized communities, especially Indigenous peoples from around the world. We look forward to the Arctic states for support of the Global Summit to assist Indigenous peoples of the Arctic as leaders in climate change, not only on local levels, but on global levels as well. As you may be aware, we are already sitting at the tables of several significant climate change bodies, including the United Nations Secretary General's high-level meeting on climate change, the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues as authors of climate change reports, and at the Aspen Institute Dialogue on Climate Change, headed by former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright. Indigenous peoples have taken the position that we are not powerless victims in the climate change debate, but we are leaders in setting direction and in finding solutions based on our centuries of experience, having survived and thrived in the most extreme environments and challenging conditions. Our unique ability to adapt and the resilient nature of our communities are the strength that we bring to the Arctic and to the global table. To assist us in developing this effort, ICC has commissioned a paper called The Ways for Indigenous Peoples to Advance Adaptive Concerns and Solutions Through International Fora. This paper is being officially released today to the senior Arctic officials, and it will assist us in setting our strategy, leading us to the COP14 and 15. I would like to encourage our government partners here at the table to continue to set the standard of active Indigenous partnerships. While we have certain standing inside the Arctic Council, it seems that we must always be vigilant. For example, in May of this year, the foreign ministers of 5 of the Arctic Council countries met in Greenland to discuss sovereignty over Arctic ocean waters. While there was some concern that this matter was not discussed here at the Arctic Council table, what concerned ICC the most was that the meeting did not provide an Indigenous voice in the way that our permanent participant status does here at the Council. While ICC Greenland was given a few minutes to address the ministers, the doors were then shut. This takes us back to the 1993 ministerial meeting to the Arctic Environmental Protection Strategy, at which for the first time, Arctic Indigenous peoples opened the door to ministerial meetings. Partially in response to this closed-door meeting, ICC invited Inuit leaders to Kuujjuaq, Canada, earlier this month to participate in a Pan-Inuit Leader Summit on Arctic sovereignty. I'll forward a statement that was developed at that meeting. In this statement, the Inuit leaders called for us to be partners and not to be excluded. Inuit have rights over the lands and seas of the Arctic, and governments simply cannot ignore us. We are not just stakeholders in the Arctic. We are rights holders as well. We are in the process now of developing a formal declaration of Arctic sovereignty from Indigenous Arctic leaders. And this, again, will be forwarded to you. To conclude my remarks, I hope that the senior officials here at this table will recognize the importance and the success of the partnerships we have had here at the Arctic Council. Let us build on that partnership and make it stronger. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Patricia.